the best player in the world, you'd say Ronnie O'Sullivan. I don't think he has the perfect technique. He's bobbing around, he's moving around on his shot.
I am not very good at snooker. However, this guy sat in front of me, Josh Thomond, is absolutely incredible.
There's levels, and I'm down here at the minute, and I want to get there, but...
How do you get to his level?
Simply improve that consistency.
Do you think that's kind of like key for somebody to get into a game really early?
You know, there's an element of, it's an advantage.
For the audience listening, they've got an hour to go and do something. Is that enough time? Can you get enough?
10 minutes is enough to actually practice. So first and foremost, I say this to anybody, you've got to enjoy what you're doing. So enjoy it, and if you're not enjoying it, put your cue away.
And you mentioned that you don't want like unrealistic goals of becoming a world champion, stuff like that. I'm completely different to you.
You want?
So before we start this podcast, I think it's crucial to say that I am not very good at snooker. However, this guy sat in front of me, Josh Thomond. That's right, isn't it?
No, Thomond.
Josh Thomond is absolutely incredible. Now, we did a video today all about trying to discover whether he can make me a better player in a very short amount of time. You're a snooker coach, you're an amateur snooker player, but he doesn't do that full time. He's got a full-time job. And in today's podcast, we're going to learn all about this wonderful man sat in front of me.
Thank you. Yeah, let's go.
I spoke to Josh the other day. So I've always been interested in snooker, and I've watched it since I was a little lad. Haven't played it much, but I thought, well, what can I do? Winter coming up, snooker. It's going to be obviously on TV soon, all the big tournaments and stuff like that. Let's go and see if we can get good at snooker. So I contacted this young man here in front of me. I just rung him up, said, you know, I'd love to come and do something here. And he said to me, which absolutely blew my mind, he was actually watching one of the podcasts from the dart shop.
Yeah, I watched the interview with Carl, he's called.
Carl Holden.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd watched it literally probably 2 days prior to you messaging me. So yeah, I knew who you was, and you was shocked.
Blew my mind, genuinely. At this early stage of the channel, it's blown my mind a little bit.
Yeah. No, it's good.
So thanks for watching,
No
anyway.
problem.
So now you're on it.
Yeah.
You're here.
It's good, it's cool.
We made it. Josh is a very good snooker player, as I said. Do you want to give the audience a rundown of who you are, what you do?
Yeah, so I am an amateur snooker player at present. I have been playing since I was probably about 11 years old. And I've gradually got better and better and better. I've managed recently to be competing on the main tour as a top-up, it's called. So I finished really high in the amateur rankings for what's called Q School. So up to now, I think I've been in every single comp this season. There's been some good bits, there's been some bad bits, but overall it's been a great learning curve.
When you talk about sort of Q School, it's something we hear quite a lot in Q School. You've obviously got that in different, like you've got it in kind of darts, they have kind of a Q School as well, and probably a different name to be fair. But give us a little insight into what it takes to get into that.
Yeah, I mean, literally to get into it, you just pay your money and you turn up. That's the truth. But basically, all it is it's just a number of competitions, and the people who get to the semi-finals turn professional for those next 2 years. But yeah, people come to me and they're like, "Oh, what's the school side of it? Are you learning? Are you doing this? It's literally just a competition. It's a qualifying school. That's the Q." So yeah, this year I got to the quarters, and then I lost in the final round of the second one. So that accumulated. You get a point per frame on the rankings. I think I'm fourth now on the Order of Merit. So I need, out of the 128 pros at competitions, if 4 aren't there, I'll be in there. So yeah, it's been really good at the minute. I've literally played in every single comp. I was lucky this year. I went to Saudi Arabia and picked up a little bit of prize money here and there, which is nice. But main thing for me has just been experience. You know, these players that we all look up to, they're amazing, and to be able to play with them and learn from them has been, it's been a great experience. Like I said, I think I've won 3 matches. And yeah, it's tough, but I've really enjoyed it. You know, people are like, what's going wrong? People are trying to question, how can you get better? Like, oh, well, if you lose, then you're not good enough. And honestly, I've just been like, learn, soak everything up around me, and take it on board. It's I remember one of my friends, Hayden Pinney, who got on tour. He used to be in this position and now he's on tour, and he was like, that was my apprenticeship. He said, I was learning on the job, I was being experienced for being a pro without being a pro. So yeah, I'm hoping to do that, and in the future, hopefully I turn pro and then I've got that experience firsthand. So
before we get into the actual professional side of the game, give the audience a little insight into an 11-year-old Josh. What did life look like back then?
Yeah, so what happened was my Uncle Steve, my dad's brother, he bought me a snooker cue and my brothers for Christmas. And then we used to go playing pool every Saturday at the pool hall in Swinton. And yeah, we just used to go every Saturday, used to love it. But we only went Saturdays. I'd probably say I was about 9 or 10 at that point. And anyway, we've been going about a year and a half, and this coach came to Swinton, and he started running an academy for juniors. And I was like, I'm interested. So me and my two brothers, my older brother and my younger brother, went every Saturday, 11 o'clock, pay your £5, and just got coached by this guy. And he taught us the foundations, a bit like some of what we did today. And then I just loved it and went from strength to strength from that. Big shout out to Reg Davis. He's a good guy. He's an old man, but he's a good guy.
And he was the kind of the beginning of your journey as such. He was the guy who took you under your wing.
Yeah, exactly.
Under his wing.
There was plenty of people like that around, and it was always competitive. Throughout being really bad at the start to getting slightly better. I think I stopped when I was 16. I just grew out of it basically. I still see Reg now. I still get told off when I play a bad shot, and I try and see him quite a bit. He's not been too clever lately, so. Yeah, I've been spending a bit of time trying to keep him his spirits high. So
you've mentioned that you kind of started playing pool / snooker around about 10, 11 years of age. Obviously, it's quite young to kind of get into a sport when the table is bloody huge. Yeah, exactly. It's massive.
I couldn't reach this blue spot.
I don't think I could today, to be honest with you, bad back. But do you think that's kind of like key for somebody to get into a game really early to progress, or the reason why I say that, Josh, is because we spoke about this earlier on off camera, and again, the premise of the channel is to try and explore different things, try and inspire people to get into it. It's the way I've always been. Like I'm good at a lot of stuff, but I've never been excellent at anything. Like I can throw darts now, as you've seen on the channel. I can kick a ball over the rugby posts. But I suppose if I was to go to the next level and be that, I'd like today, I've seen that you are, right, when I say this now, if you've genuinely not seen this video, you have to go and see how Josh hits the ball. It's unbelievable. You hit it with so much force and but controlled and he was in and around the black, and it was just insane to watch. And it generally blew my mind when I was watching you, how good you was. But it's something I've never done, is just focus on one thing, and it's probably my downfall, to be honest with you. So do you think that probably if I was to have stuck at something from an early age, you could potentially have been a professional at something, or
who knows? I don't necessarily think you have to be on it that early. I think there's an element of it's an advantage, but. I've seen some people who didn't start till late and are really good, and I've seen some people who started really early and are good. I think it definitely helps having the experience for a long time, and if you're at a certain level, let's say 12, then of course it's easier to transition to being older and better. But no, I don't think, especially with snooker and not really a physical sport, I don't think age is really a barrier. If I was to say 28 at snooker now, at football, they'd be saying
you're over
no chance, you're done. You can't turn.
You're not getting signed next year because you're that old.
But snooker, especially with being an individual sport and you're results driven, not really anybody's opinion. Never say never. I think I've shown throughout being 11 years old till now that every year I've got better. There's been ups and downs within that, but definitely I've consistently improved from a young age, and I'm hoping that continues, because if it does, then who knows what heights. And
what kind of level were you at them earlier stages in?
Shocking.
In terms of what? So give the audience an example of again, I want for people to listen to this and go, well, he was once.
Yeah, I didn't just pick up a cue and suddenly start potting balls. I was useless. I remember like my dad played as a kid, but he wasn't amazing, and he would batter me. You know, I literally had to learn how to hit the white. I had to learn every single thing that we spoke about today. Yeah, it's tough. It's not easy. There's an element of, you know, you've got the eye, you've got the timing naturally a little bit, but you've got to put a lot of work in to get somewhere. So yeah, I think anybody can do it really within reason.
So let's get into the nooks and crannies of, like you just mentioned there about learning the basics.
Yeah.
For a beginner, somebody who's listening to this podcast today and has probably seen the video, just talk to them now in terms of what they should be focusing on as a beginner. So
first and foremost, I say this to anybody, you've got to enjoy what you're doing. So enjoy it, and if you're not enjoying it, put your key away. Like, you've got to enjoy yourself. You know, I've had periods in my time where I've not enjoyed it and I've had to stop for a period, whether it be a couple of months, couple of weeks, even a couple of days. Enjoy it first and foremost. But I think you want to kind of look at where you're going wrong. You want to be inquisitive. You want to kind of learn on the job. You got to understand what you're doing wrong rather than just keep hitting balls and getting better. You need to learn why something's happening. You know, you might be putting side spin on accidentally. You might be, I don't know, overhitting. You got to understand why these things are happening, and then that's how you learn. You can do this on your own. You can do this with a coach. You can learn a lot of things, and you can do it with research as well. I don't believe there's no particular set way of being. You know, the best player in the world, you'd say Ronnie O'Sullivan. I don't think he has the perfect technique. He's bobbing around, he's moving around on his shot. Everybody's like, you've got to stay still. He's the best player in the world by a mile. And then Judd, he starts off and he's aiming miles to the right and comes back straight when he gets the ball. You know, and again, he's winning everything at the moment. So there's idealistic ways of being technique-wise. But just, I don't know, you really got to learn what you're doing wrong. You've got to understand your situation. Every single person's different. Which is interesting because,
like I've spoken about already, we were on this table just here and we got, Josh was telling me to pot the blue into the middle and then screw it back into the white into the middle pocket. It's a really, really simple thing for him to do. And as I said, when we started off the video, if you've seen, I started off really well, started potting loads of balls. Don't want to give too much away because you have to go and watch it. There's loads of tips and tricks packed into that video, which anybody who's wanting to elevate the game has to go and watch. But we saw straight away, didn't we, that there was some real fundamental issues, especially when we were trying to work that cue ball.
Yeah.
Which in the end, you discovered. He came around the side of the thing. Again, please go and watch it because it's fascinating. And I was standing. So to explain to the audience exactly what was happening.
From what I could see when you was first doing it, I could see that you was coming in from the right hand side and aiming to the left as you went through. So when you was down on your shot, you was aiming pretty perfect. It was straight. I could see your arm was straight, and there was like a consistent line through the white all the way back to your back arm. And it looked good, but then once you put some power in and once you put some movement, things were going offline and losing that line. So initially I was like explaining it and saying that's what I need you to do without understanding why it was happening. And then when I came around and I seen you hadn't much room within your legs, so you was forcing yourself to be slightly higher on the shot firstly, but also you wasn't having enough room along your chest. So when you was playing the shot, you would hit your chest and kind of force yourself out of that line. So then, obviously, when you're off the line, you hit the ball with side, the ball does other things with side and not. So, yeah, we realised it. And then, literally, once I spotted that and I showed you,
first shot.
It was amazing. The first shot, we literally did it.
It was unbelievable. Literally, first shot. He just said, just move your left leg just a little bit more to the side, giving yourself a bit more room, like he's just said. And we hit that first shot. And we nailed it, didn't we?
Yeah.
I don't think I've never been as happy. Yeah. Josh said, it was taking the mick, really, to be honest with you. It was like shot 300 odd. It probably weren't far off. And this was like 305, and we nailed it. And it was just that one little thing. And that's, for me, already, we've probably, an hour session there, which we'll probably condense into a nice little video for you guys. And straight away, the fundamental-wise, it was completely flawed.
Yeah.
And if I was to practice on my own and come into a club like this with all these wonderful tables, I'd be thinking, well, it can't be me.
Yeah,
It must be the cue.
Yeah, of course.
It had nothing to do with that.
No,
It had literally nothing to do with that. All Josh had to do was just come round this way, round this side of the table, and he went, I know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And then you put your finger on it, and straight away we cued so much better.
It was better.
So much better.
I mean, like, I wouldn't consider myself to be the most experienced coach. It's something I do more because people ask me to. You know, I was like, I play pool with my partner, and a lot of people at the club was like, oh, would you do coaching? Because I'd point things out to them. I'd try and say, like, oh, you could do this, or oh, that looks a bit like this. Try doing this. And they'd seen me with Lauren as well, and coaching her without really meaning to, just being a boyfriend.
That's Josh's girlfriend.
Yeah, so, and the people was asking me, and I was like, I need to do something. The amount of people that ask me to do coaching, and, you know, I was just like, I've got to do it. I don't do it for monetary, really. I do get paid, but that's not my drive. It's more just helping people out. So, yeah, I quite enjoy it. And, like, that today was a perfect example of what I enjoy. It's like a problem, and I want to solve it, you know. You might find another coach will come to it instantly and know exactly, and I had to work it out a little bit longer, but I enjoy it. I enjoy trying to help people, and that moment when you got it, it was like, oh, I made that happen.
You get some satisfaction as well out of that,
I suppose. I wouldn't say I played the shot, but I've got you to the point at which you can play the shot.
Yeah.
And if you'd have done that all day on your own, I'm not saying you wouldn't have got it, but I'd be less confident.
I don't think I would. In all seriousness, like I said, we played a hell of a lot of shots there, and it's a dead simple shot. Like, I'm looking at this blue, and like it's not even far realistically. It's probably the easiest shot on the table. Yeah. And if I would have been, because I was thinking we went for a pre-shot routine, which again you guys need to go and have a look at. And I was going through the pre-shot routine. I was hitting the ball like I should have been doing, but it was like skewing off. And there was one time where I think I completely missed the pocket, didn't I?
Yeah.
And it was like the white was over there, went into the reds down there, and it was just an absolute disaster. Yeah. And like I said, I would have personally never ever have picked up on that. I would have been blaming anything but myself.
Yeah, of course.
And it was just a simple little thingy. It's a simple little technique which you've shown me, and it's helped massively. Yeah. And again, so in terms of, I've now learned a few sort of like basics. Yeah. Would that be a go away and?
Yeah. So I always say to people, I'm not going to literally fix you on a day in an hour. I'm going to try and give you a few things to work on. I'm going to try and say, you know, these things that I'm telling you, they will help you. They might not feel it at first, but they will get you into a better place if you go away and practice it. There's no point in me telling you how to do things and then coming back 6 weeks later and saying, oh, I've not practiced it. Yeah. You've got to work on these things, you know, like, and implement them into your game. Yeah, you will get better.
Do you know what I'd really love to do now? This is a pipe dream again, because this channel is all about discovering how difficult things are to do, and trying to try and get better and inspire you guys to go out and try it. I would love to, if you'd be up for this, a bit of a challenge. I'd love to really practice quite hard at it. Yeah. And see where we can get to. Yeah. You know, definitely. Almost see what level we can get to. Yeah. I ain't going to beat you anytime soon, let's be honest, right? You've been practicing for a hell of a lot longer than me. And he's bloody good as well. Really good.
Yeah, thanks.
But...
And I'm rubbish to some people.
See, again, talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've played, like I said, on the main tour as a top-up, and, you know, there's been some games where I've been blown away. I got beat 5-0, I've been beat 6-1. That just the other week I got beat by Barry Hawkins 6-1 in a Chinese comp. And they're brilliant, you know, they're really good players, and he didn't play that well that day, I didn't play that well, but these players, you know, they make it look easy, and I'm telling you now, and you have seen today, it's not an easy game. But these players look to me as an easy game, and as well as I look at other players and think that's an easier game. Yeah. You know, there's levels, and I'm down here at the minute, and I want to get there. But
the way I liken it is like every sport's got like them levels in every way. Yeah. You know, you've got football, you've got the elite, the guys who are incredible, your Messi's, your Ronaldo's, they're the standards. And then you've got your Busquetses who do a job for the team, and then you've got your Gerard Piqués and Phil Joneses at the back. Yeah. But it. Honestly, so going back to it, I'd love to do a video of like you helping me over a period of time, almost like you are the coach, showing actual how good you are. Because I've already seen the benefits of coming to see you today, of just little things like that, the basics of how to formulate a break as such. I think my record break is, when I say I think, it's probably there and thereabouts, around 23. And the first time today, we almost had a pop at it. Like, not the first shot, because I remember I stunned it into the blue and it stopped there, and you went, just try having a little bit of topspin on it. And it's just like little bits of information like that off of somebody like you is invaluable. And it's something I've learned already today, that if I feel like I was to come and see you a number of times, I reckon we could get to a good. I'm not saying that we'd be any good, but if you used to play like in like a pub league or something like that, you'd probably have a good chance at beating a few people. But I'd love to do that if that would be something you go. And for the channel and for these guys, because I'm sure these guys would be really interested to see how, like, somebody like me, they've seen today in that first video, I'm not very good at snooker. Like, I'm okay. I can pot a ball if it's straight. Any angle on it, I'm rubbish. So it'd be interesting for these guys to see if, to see if they've got also the ability. Because I am 100% sure that if anybody puts in, I'm talking to anybody here, puts in a time and effort into something, that they can be good at something. You just need that repetition, in my humble opinion. Yeah,
you're 100% right. Anybody can do it. There'll be people that pick it up quicker, there'll be people that are slower, but put the time in, have the right things around you. I think anybody can do it. It'd be good to do that.
Before we go into, because that was one question I had later on, was talking about the levels in the game, because I really want to get into that. I really want to talk about, so we've mentioned you as a child, and you mentioned that you was rubbish at the start, which I don't believe. I think you're lying to me. But when was it you got to... What age did you kind of get to and you thought, I've got a bit here?
Yeah, I mean, so when I was a little bit younger, when I played at the academy, we started doing, after a couple of years, we went to the Northwest under-16s. And it was tough. I remember turning up to it. And this is happening every single level of my snooker, whether it be from the first junior level or to the top of wherever I am now. I started and I was the worst one there. Like, I went to the Northwest under-16s. We had groups of 4, best of 3 frames, and I would always finish bottom or third. Gradually, I got a little bit better. Started winning my group, getting out into the knockout rounds, and eventually getting to the point where I'm winning them. Then you go from the Northwest under-16s, you try and do something else, and so on, and you work your way up. But I think I qualified for the last 16 of the England under-16s, and I wouldn't say I thought, I've got it here, I've got real potential, but I thought, it'd be nice to give it a proper go and try and do a little bit more than just playing on a Saturday. I try and go 3-4 times a week. So I remember I've got a table at home at my mum and dad's, but back in the day we didn't have one, and we used to go to a conservative club in Tilsley, and we used to go at 5 o'clock till 7 before it opened, and they made arrangements so we could go. And it was brilliant. We used to have, I think it was on a Monday and a Wednesday. And then I started enjoying it that way. I started playing a bit more practice. Then I got asked to play in a league at 14, I think. And it was good. And I think one thing that, when I was younger, that really helped me was my brother played with me. So he's only 13 months younger than me. And we was always competing against each other. Some days he'd beat me, I'd beat him. But we'd have that competitive streak, and like, we'd hate losing to each other, and it'd show. So we'd go to coaching on a Saturday, and we'd finish at 1, and then we'd go up to another club down the road. And we used to play for like 4 or 5 hours until we got told we had to go home, basically. And, we'd be fighting. We'd be like kicking off with each other. Like, you're putting me off, you're doing this, you're doing that. And I'd probably be the worst ever for tactics, he'd say, and I agree.
Not even hiding it.
No, I used to do anything to put him off. It'd be like munching me sweets in the corner, Russell in the packet, or nice shot before he's played it, and just try and get in his head.
But do you not think that those little tactics, they're dirty at the time?
Yeah.
I always think this. Do you know, like, for example, like, we watch darts now.
Yeah.
A lot of the floor events are quiet, it's dead quiet sort of thing. But then you see the boys going out and playing on the Premier League in front of 20,000 people at the MEN. And I always think that, like, those little things where, like, you and your brother having, cruising in the packet, stuff like that, does that help you in the long run in terms of, like, preparing for them things in...
It's funny you should say that, actually. So Swinton Pool Hall, where we used to play, they have a jukebox. So when we was playing, it'd be blaring music out all the time. And I've noticed some of my friends who have always been played in silent rooms, when I hear like music in the background or somebody's phone going or something, it doesn't bother me as much as other people it does. And I think that's down to the constant jukebox noise, people walking by. You know, I remember my first 147, we got it on CCTV, and I'm down on the last pink, and a few people in the room knew what was going on, but most of the club didn't. And there's these two old women who was bowling, and they literally walk and they get in my way whilst I'm on the pink on a 147.
Oh, no.
My first one, and I'm like, get out of my way, in my head. But I didn't say anything, and I managed to get them. But on the CCTV, it shows them like just whittering on between themselves whilst I'm trying to get a 147. And yeah, so I think my experience back in the day in that club, where it's noisy, busy, nobody really cares, they're not thinking about me. I think that's helped me in the long term to not get put off by little things.
Yeah.
It's
perfect.
good. Yeah.
So when you're growing up, you've got to the age of, you said about 16, didn't you? And you thought, I'm going to try and enter a few big tournaments, and you did well in one. You're 28 now.
Yeah.
What's the goal for yourself? Like, do you want to make it on tour fully? Is that the goal?
In short, yes. I think I'm realistic. I don't know where I can get to, if I'm honest. I would want to be on the main tour. People say be pro, and it is a professional status, but you need to be earning some money to call yourself a pro, I think. And yeah, I want to do that. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. Having said that, at the same time, I've always said I'll play snooker whilst I enjoy it, and I love it. So if I never get on tour, I would be disappointed. But my aim is to just enjoy playing snooker, and I do. And if I was to stop playing tomorrow, the things that I've done over the years, and a lot of people would wish to be in my shoes, whereas I probably wish to be in other people's shoes. But there's a lot of people lesser than me who've tried and not done what I've done. So that, some people will be like, you've done nothing. But I've travelled the world. I've enjoyed seeing a few different sites. I've competed well. I've won some nice little bits of money here and there. Not many people can say they've done that in a sport. So, yeah, I do want to do more. I want to turn pro, and I want to earn more of a living and maybe take it on full time. But it's not the be all and end all.
So this isn't a full-time job for yourself. And I discovered before that, in actual fact, coaching is not even a full-time job for yourself. So what do you actually do?
So at the minute, and I've been there just over 10 years now, I work at British Cycling as a trainee accountant, finance assistant. And I do enjoy it. It's probably not what I want to do for the rest of my life. But I like working in the sport industry, being cycling.
Are you into cycling yourself?
Do you know what? No, yes and no.
The Lycra.
Yeah. So about 5 years ago, I used to cycle to work. It's about 11 miles from my house to work when we was in the office before COVID. And I did it for about 6 months. I went through the winter time. It was horrible. It was cold. It was raining. And I had all the Lycra, and I got a bike on the cycle to work scheme. Anyway, I was riding. Did about 6 months, and I went to the gym with a friend and left my bike chained up, and it got stolen. And I've not really rode a bike since. But I was doing over 100 mile a week, and it was helping me so much fitness-wise.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, it got nabbed.
You're a big lad. The bike must have been huge.
Yeah, it was just a cross bike. I used to love it though. I used to so on Strava you can set your fastest times and you can try and beat him and become king of this road or whatever. And I shouldn't say this, but I was jumping through reds. I was doing all sorts, just trying to get the best time.
We won't tell anyone.
I think I got it 11.4 miles, I think it was. I got it to under 40 minutes, which I don't know in terms of cyclists. I don't really care. But for me, I was like, that's really good. Yeah, it was impressive. So, yeah, I miss it a little bit, but not enough to buy another bike.
What does... So, obviously, being an amateur snooker player, I really want to delve into what that looks like from a week-to-week basis. Like, give everybody a lowdown of what practice looks like for yourself. Yeah. What the travel element looks like for yourself. What does tournaments look like for yourself? So we'll go through it each minute. So talk to me a little bit.
So in terms of practice and like my week to week, my day to day from week to week, I would play Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday in the evening after work. So I normally try and get there just after 5, do a few hours and get out before the club gets too busy. I think it's quite good. Back in the day, I would have practiced like 6 hours a day. I'd have gone after school, gone home at like 10, 11 o'clock, and it had just been all I did. But a bit older now, obviously after work you're a bit tired. I think quality over quantity. So I probably do 2-3 hours 5 times a week now. Yeah. And try and really get that intense practice to make myself better. So it is hard work. Thankfully I've got a really good girlfriend, fiance, and she supports me and sometimes comes with me and spots my balls, and you know, she helps me practice sometimes. But yeah, no, it's busy, but I'd rather be doing that.
When you talk
nothing.
about, before you go on to the next one, you talk about intense practice. What does that look like for you in terms of, so what, like you've obviously got, for the audience listening, they've got an hour to go and do something. Is that enough time? Can you get enough?
10 minutes is enough to actually practice, but I like to get more quality and keep it going. So when I talk about intensity, I'm not going on my phone. I'm not having a look at what's on TV.
Really
I'm not looking at the darts score or the football score. I'm not texting me friends, my partner. You know, I'm playing snooker. I'm really like dialing into what I'm doing. I'm also like, you can play snooker and you can be nonchalant in the way you play. Like, so you're not doing a full cueing action, not doing the, you know, all the pre-shot routine in full because you're just being a bit lazy. I don't like doing that. So that's why I play 2 hours rather than 4. If I do 2 of the really good stuff, it's better than doing 4 messing around and not doing the proper. So yeah, I've found a nice balance nowadays. I think sometimes I practice too much and I'd be that lazy person. I'd probably pick up habits. I'll get frustrated and not think I'm playing well when I probably could be. Whereas now I'm like, I'm enjoying it. I've got some good people around me helping me practice.
Would you say that if you went into the your practice session, you're obviously practicing really well. Yeah. You're doing everything with intent. Yeah. As soon as you start to waver away from that, is that like an indicator to just
put your cue away?
Put a cue away.
Yeah. Stop. Don't always do it, but I try to, because you've got to, you know, you can have a bad day as well, like where you've had a bad day in the day at work or whatever, and you come and play snooker and you're not doing it properly because you're being affected by whatever. Put your cue away, go away. That's how I work. Some people say work through it. I personally think you're wasting your time. If you're not ready to do it mentally, you know, it's more mental than the actual game, I'd say, once you get to a point. So you're either there or you're not, and you know yourself. Yeah.
And then moving on to the travel elements of, because you're working.
Yeah,
so this is one thing again, I always use this term, it blows my mind, but it does when I speak to somebody like you. It's really interesting how you've got a day job, you're tucked behind a desk the majority of the time, and then next minute I can see you on Eurosport, on telly. So, it's crazy.
So like, this has obviously been a more busy period for me, being half on the tour and half in the amateur scene as well. So I'm currently playing on the Q Tour, which is made up of 7 events over 6 months-ish. There's 4 events in Europe and 3 in the UK. So I think there's been 5 up to now, and I've got 2 or 3 left. So this year we've been to Sweden, Bulgaria. I'm going to Vienna next week, and I'm going to Belgium in January. And then there's obviously the 3 British ones. I think it was Leeds, Birmingham. I can't remember the other one. But there's travelling, even in the UK ones, is my point. On top of that, I've then played on the World Tour stuff. So then I've been travelling. There's been qualifiers in Leicester. There's been comps in Sheffield. And there was one in Essex as well. So all those are going the night before, getting a hotel, being prepared, being mentally ready to play. So yeah, on the Q Tours, they're Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Thankfully, I'm a seed, so I don't play till the Saturday. So I can travel the Friday and travel home Sunday or Monday. But no, it sounds like a lot, and people are like, how can you get all the time off work? But when I go to Vienna, I'll take the Friday off, and I'll be back in work on the Monday. Yeah. It's not really that, you know, it's not taking all my holidays. But then on top of that, I went to Saudi Arabia as well on the World Snooker Tour. So that was a bit more time off because I was there for a lot longer. So it is taxing, you know, like it's tiring, and people think it's all glitz and glam when you're putting on socials that you're here, there, and everywhere. I don't really see anything. I go play snooker and come home.
Yeah.
But it is nice as well, you know, like I said before, there's plenty of people that would kill to be doing what I'm doing and
Absolutely.
they're not able to. So yeah, no, I'm thankful. But I also say, don't think it's as good as it looks sometimes.
Well, it's interesting because, again, I've written down here, we always see the glitz and the glamour. You're watching the big tournaments, you're watching the tournaments in the Crucible and things like that, and you see the winners and you see the checks they hold up and stuff like that. What's the money element like for yourself? If I don't want, you don't have to talk numbers if you don't want to.
It costs a fortune. You don't earn a lot. It's getting better, but there's no way I could earn a living as an amateur snooker player. It's impossible.
So again, if you
crack on. Fine.
What does so? I in a few years' time will get really good, obviously, because I am.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about entering a tournament, sort of thing. What are you paying for that?
I'll give you an example. First of all, Q school's generally £1,000. It's been varied between 6, 9, 8 and 1,000.
And is that per event?
Just for that 1 year of Q school. So it's over like 2-3 weeks. But then you've got to pay to stay over because it's in Leicester, because you don't want to be travelling because that's no good for your mind. You know, you need to pay hotels.
For 3 weeks?
Well, if you lose, you can come back, or you can plan.
Right.
Oh, I've got a day off here. I can come home and save a bit of cost, but then you're paying £50 fuel to get there and back.
Yeah, it makes sense to stay in.
It all adds up. And then going to your abroad destinations, you've got to pay your flights. You've got to pay your queue to go in the hold. That adds £35 a journey on the flight. You know, everything adds up, and it is costly. And the hotels add up. Some tournaments I managed to do the Q tours, like Sweden. I think I managed to do it for like £250. I wasn't scrimping there either. Like it was a nice enough hotel. It was a simple budget flight, and it ate okay. It was quite nice, but it does add up. You know, it's costly. But in the Q tours now, I'm in a position where if I win one match, I think, is it £200? So it goes away, you know, if you can win one game.
Per match?
Per match. So I think it goes 200, then 300, 600, 900, 1,500 and £3,000.
For the winner?
Yeah. So there is a little bit of money, and it sounds good again, but, you know, if the best player probably covers the cost, best 5 probably do. I think I'm 18th in the rankings. I've probably took about £1,000 in prize money, but it doesn't touch the sides. Like,
no,
it's nowhere near. But I have to say, I've got 3 sponsors at the minute, which I'll give them a shout out. So Connolly Upholstery, they've been helping me out for about a year now, and they're brilliant. They've done a few jobs for my family and friends as well, which is nice. I have HD cladding, which is hygienic cladding, for like, at the minute he's doing pets at homes or hospitals where the walls need to be plastic sheeting for hygiene. He's supported me quite well. That's been really helpful for about 6 months. And then this club as well, they've helped me out a bit, especially with the table, and, you know, they help me out near comps as well. So I'm in a fortunate position nowadays, which I've not had really in the past, loads. I've only ever had one sponsor before this, and he was the owner of the Swinton Pool Hall. But yeah, he sadly passed away a few years ago now. So yeah, he was brilliant. He was like a really good friend. He'd come to all the events. But yeah, unfortunately, he passed away with cancer. So that was tough. But yeah, it's been in terms of finances, he supported me and Dave supported me, and it makes it a lot easier. It makes me be able to do stuff that I probably wouldn't be able to do without it. So yeah, I'm lucky, but there's some people that are finding the money themselves and not able to. And as well, my mum and dad as well, they moved house for me when I was, how old would I be? About 16, to get a table at home. You know, they bent over backwards financially to do it. And yeah, that was a massive help as well. And all the comps, he'd take me to my dad, and he'd be moaning, he'd be like, it's a summer's day and I'm stuck in this dingy snooker hall.
Do these guys who are investing in you, are they looking for a return on investment?
So, not necessarily. Like, they do want, you know, I advertise the business, I put them on socials, and I think the main thing of it, I've always been honest, to sponsor me, you're not really doing it for the big return, you're doing it to support a local lad, a friend, a person that you want to be involved in.
Pretty much like what you said to me.
Yeah.
I asked Josh, like, obviously payment and stuff like that. I don't want to take your time and not pay him. And he said, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
And it's very kind of you to do so.
Yeah, it's similar. Like, I would love to be in a position one day to give back to these people, to be earning a wage and say, you know what, we can stick a decent percentage on this and you can yield it in. And also, if I become something better, I have more reach, to people to get their businesses in the know. But it's hard as well. So, but like, one of my sponsors came to Sweden with us, and we had a great weekend. He loved it. He loved being involved, and I loved having him there and her as well. It was really good. We had a great trip, and I hope to do it again with all my sponsors. That I like them coming. I like them being a part of it. I don't want a sponsor. I never really have where they just sit in the background and just send me money. Or I want somebody who like really wants me to do well. I want them to buy into my passion and be willing me on. I want a support system around me that's, come on, Josh, you can do this. Like, you're better than that. Or well done. So yeah, I think I've got that balance at the minute. Everybody's well behind me. The club and the people who come in the club, they all want me to do well. I don't think anybody is secretly sat there going, oh, I hope he loses.
Yeah, that guy in the corner who's smoking a cigar, I hope he fails.
But no, I get really good support and everybody's always wishing me well, and I do love it. I've got a lot of friends, I've got a lot of family, and they're always asking me how I'm doing, and I never get bored of telling them about it either. Some people are like, oh, again, coming up to I'm happy telling them about it. It's what I'm proud of. I'm doing well. So
good. Talk to the audience a little bit, and myself, about the pressure of the game, because it is high pressure. Like, that is a difficult game for one. So you've got a number of different things that you've got to think about whilst you're over the ball. But then, of course, there's the money element. That next black or the next frame that you win. Yeah. What's it worth? Like, talk to us a little bit about that sort of mental side of things.
Have I ever thought of, winning this will get me this? Yes, that's the truth. But when you're playing, I don't really think about it. It's about putting the balls.
So you set everything aside.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
Just, you're there to pop balls. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough to worry about just getting them in. So
I know, I do know.
But no, I've never really thought like that. Maybe I've before and after, and that would have been nice had I got this. But generally, I do it because I love snooker. I'm not doing it to line my bank account. I've never played snooker to make money. I want to, but that's never been my drive. My drive is just I want to get really good at something and work my way as high as I possibly can.
Does it take a toll on your mental health, like the travelling elements, the fact that you're here, there and everywhere, obviously potentially not seeing your girlfriend or your fiancé for a while? Like, talk to us a little bit about that. Have you ever struggled with that? And on top as well, you've got a full-time job.
Yeah, things, I work it the other way, to be honest. I actually use snooker as, my way to overcome anything that's going on in my own life. So like, say if I've had a tough time at work or, anything that's going on in life, I quite find a way to find peace whilst I'm playing snooker. I use it as a mechanism to overcome any stress or, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to, take me away from the world and just play snooker.
Well, there's nothing worse than being in your own thoughts. I mean, we've all probably been through times where it's been difficult, struggled mentally. I know I have in the past. It's kind of a reason why we wanted to do this channel, to hopefully inspire people to get into things. And like, again, you've just said there, and it's something I'm always banging the drum on, when you're focusing on anything other than your problems, you're fine. You never have a problem in that. So if we can champion people getting out there and trying new things like snooker, like darts, when you're doing that thing, you ain't thinking about the problem that's causing you the most pain at that present moment in time. We're not putting a band-aid over it, a severed leg or anything. But if we can take you away and you can make friends in that particular place, you can get on with new people you've never met before, and then you're focusing on something that's bloody hard, then realistically, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. Over the years, like, I've had a lot of things go on, and snooker gets you through. Really, it's the one constant in my life that has never changed. I've had partners, I've had different struggles or whatever, but snooker's always been the one constant that's kept me going and kept me sane, I'll say.
So before the podcast, I asked you for a few topics of conversation, and you mentioned that you got in some debt.
Yeah. So I had a girlfriend when I was younger, through school and towards the end, and when it all went wrong, I kind of went a bit AWOL mentally. I was like, I don't know, making bad choices. I'll give you an example.
What were those bad choices?
Yeah, so I was travelling to work and I used to get Ubers to and from work because I didn't want to get on the bus. So then that obviously added cost. I used to, rather than go home and deal with my parents saying, how are you doing? And they check in on me like they should, but I didn't want to have those conversations. So I'd like book an hotel for the night saying I'm staying at my friend's. I'd go out and I'd eat out 2-3 times a day, you know, just spending money that I've not got. And bearing in mind as well, at this time I was an apprentice.
Yes, you're making no money at all.
I think I was on £700 a month.
That's hanging, isn't it? That is a joke.
So I had no money, and I was just, I always explain it to people, and I say I was on self-destruct. I was just doing things that you just shouldn't be doing. I'd get a credit card, I'd, you know, do this to pay this and do whatever. And, you know, people have said about, oh, was you gambling big? Because that's how it can really think. I was like, you go and eat out 2-3 times a day, 5 days a week, go and get Ubers to and from everywhere that you're going, whether it be 10 miles, 20 miles, you're not bothered. You have no real like concept of money because you're not in the mental headspace to do so. And just keep spending and spending and spending. And I did it so many times. But I eventually, you know, I got good support from my family around me, and I regret it a lot. I upset people that I wish I hadn't. But I can honestly say now I'm in a good space, and I was speaking to my dad about it a few weeks ago. I said, it's amazing now. I probably would say I'm probably one of the best people with money now. I really think about it. I make sure that I'm not, you know, behind. Everything's in good control.
Well, it's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
You always have to go through these struggles, these trials and tribulations in your life. It's like if you think you're just going to walk through life scot-free without a problem, well, you've got another thing coming, because you do, like from day-to-day life and stuff like that. And the problem is that if you've gone through life until this point without having any issues, when you do finally get that issue, it's going to be one hell of a big one. It's going to be a big shock for you. So I feel like you could look at it two ways. You could look at it being really negative that you went into debt, but like you said, you've now gone the opposite way, where in actual fact you ain't getting into debt no more, because you're so stringent with every single penny you spend, and that's a good thing. Yeah,
definitely. Like I couldn't imagine being in that position where I used to look and I used to get paid, and I'd be like, so that needs to pay that, and that needs to pay that, that needs to pay that. I've not got anything left. You know, like I was lucky I was living at home, really. But yeah, wouldn't go there again for sure. Yeah, crazy times.
But don't go there again.
No.
You don't need it.
No,
it's no good.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, watching snooker, somebody who was obviously, we mentioned him briefly before, somebody who I always looked up to because he was just phenomenal. And he was a bit of a showman, he still is Ronnie. Ronnie O'Sullivan, for anybody who doesn't know, believe it or not. There will be people out there who doesn't know who Ronnie is.
There's not.
I don't think that's a joke. But he was just a phenomenal. The reason why I quite enjoyed watching any of his matches is because of the unpredictable. We didn't know what you were going to get from him. You didn't know whether he was going to hit a 147 in 5 minutes like he's done before. You didn't know whether he was going to get a Ronnie walking off stage.
Yeah.
And I quite liked that element of the unpredictability. I quite like any sportsman who's unpredictable. You don't quite know what you're going to get from him. But I don't like the guys who are a bit arsey with it, but I quite like that. Anyway, so who did you look up to as a young lad, or who was your...
I think if anybody's being honest, like when they look at Ronnie as a snooker player, they appreciate what he is and the talent he is. I always really, really appreciated John Higgins, and it was something about the mettle that he has when he's behind in a frame and his ability to clear up under pressure. I think it's underrated, and I think, I always just look at him and he's unmoved, you know, emotionally when you watch him. He's so composed and, you know, never really looks like he's going anywhere. He's happy, you know, like he's content with what's going on. He's in control. Obviously, he's getting on now, and you know he's not hitting his heights that he used to, but he's still at the top of his game at his age. I think it's brilliant.
But is that going back to what you said before? Is like you said he was pretty unfazed, even though he could be 3 or 4 frames down.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because he knows in his head that he has the ability to come back. So when he gets those opportunities, he's going to take them.
I think he's got the self-belief, and I think, he's just like the professional side of it. Like, you know what you're going to get. There's a level that you're going to get out of him, and he's always going to be at that level. Sometimes it might fluctuate from his high to his standard, but he's never really going below that level. And I think the consistency, and we've briefly spoke about this before, you know, how to word this. I wouldn't say there's a shot that Ronnie O'Sullivan, John Higgins, Judd Trump can play that I can't play. But his consistency of doing it is the difference.
Yeah.
Something that I'll do 2, 3, 4 out of 10, he's doing 9, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't think I'm wrong in saying that there's not a shot that I can't play. It's just...
How do you get better then? How do you get to his level?
Simply improve that consistency. How you do that is the unsimple side of it.
So for me, as learning that, you've obviously said he can do it 8, 9 out of 10 times out of 10. I can do it 4.
Yeah.
How do you bridge that gap? Is it money? Is it more practice? Is it?
I wouldn't say money. I think practice is key, and I think understanding where you're going wrong as well. I think, from my point of view, like at the minute, playing in the tour and understanding the difference of the tables and the consistency of them being so reactive and fresh, and it's a different game out there. I think learning that and getting used to being in that scenario, and you know, they're human. That's one thing I've learned, you know, while watching. You know, they are better than me, but they're also human and they're also beatable. And I think initially when I started, I actually started quite well. I played Ali Carter in one of the comps and I drew 2 each. And I don't look at it and go, oh, look at that result, I'm amazing. But it was the instant dawning of me when you can compete with him.
You can do it.
Yeah. You know, and I needed him to not play at his best level, but I also played all right myself and got there.
It was one of the first things when I contacted you. Obviously, we had a quick search and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was the first thing that popped up. So I watched it and I was like, he's good. This Ali Carter's good. And so this guy's drew against him. He must be bloody good.
It's a short format. It's the start of a season. He's probably not well practiced and stuff, but... You know,
don't rubbish yourself.
I'm realistic.
You drew against Ali Carter.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant player.
Yeah, I'm realistic to it. It does mean something, but it doesn't at the same time. But all it did tell me was
you do
I can have the capability to compete. And
I think sometimes there's been a few sportsmen over the years where they've gone to sort of gone into their psychology and stuff like that, and they've obviously got the ability. Like I've obviously seen today that you can pot a ball and you can do it very well. We've obviously seen on television that you can draw against very good players.
Yeah.
For some people, it is just that little moment in their career where they get that little light bulb moment. They go, in actual fact, do you know what? I'm not the underdog here.
Yeah.
And they turn themselves from the underdog into, I can beat this guy.
Yeah.
And it's just that mindset, isn't it, of changing your mindset sometimes of going, I can do this.
I think a good example that I can give, when I started at the academy, I was one of the worst and I became one of the best. Then I went to the Northwest under-16s, I was one of the worst, became one of the best. Then I'd play in regional comps, so it was in the North under-21 at that time. I was the worst, became the best. Then I played on the Prem Tour, which was like the national under-21 series. I was the worst. I couldn't get out of my group. It was rubbish. Eventually finished near the top. I think I was top.
Yeah.
So like these standards have gradually got better. And then I'd play in the men's. I was the worst in the English men's. And then a few years later, I qualified for the Europeans from being high in the rankings. And then I'd play Q School to try and get on. I was win the odd match. But then I got to the final round last year. So I'm gradually like defeating these obstacles that are all tough at one point. But then now, if I was to go back, it'd be easy. So I believe that I can do the next level because I've never been to a level where I've gone, oh, I can't do that. So why can't I do the next level and the next level? Do you know?
Yeah. So what we're saying here now is I'm sat in front of a future world champion.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, I would never like. I see some people on interviews going, "Oh, I want to be world champion. I want to be there." Of course you do, but I'd never sit there and put that as a realistic goal. I look at tomorrow, next week.
Be realistic.
Yeah, for example, I'm playing in the shootout. I want to win my first game. I want to get involved in the competition. Yeah, I'd love to win it on Saturday. It isn't unrealistic, as in unrealistic, impossible, but it is unrealistic. Do the near future, and if you consistently beat those goals, you'll get there.
So we've just spoken about sort of like the whole. With every level, you've got to that. At first you've started off at the bottom. You've trained yourself, but you've always believed that you do have the potential to get sort of to that next level. And you mentioned that you don't want like unrealistic goals of becoming a world champion, stuff like that. I'm completely different to you.
You want?
So for this channel, I am going to be the next Mr. Beast and have 300 odd million subscribers, and this video will be on 50 million views soon and all that. So that's the way my brain works. But it just goes to show that you are completely different to me. I came in today, potted a few balls. Instantly, my expectations went to being, I could have a bit here, like I could be on tour. If you just switches around, I'll start teaching you. Yeah. But that's how my mind works. Yeah. It's interesting how you are quite grounded, really. You're like, right, okay, let's take bit by bit. And is that because you've had setbacks in the past, or is it?
I wouldn't say I don't take myself too seriously, but, like in any walk, I just kind of think, you don't know what's going to happen in the next few weeks. I'm quite. I want my goals to be achievable. I want them to be possible, and I'm not saying they're not possible. But at this point, say being a world champion, it's not possible in the short.
Because you know that there's levels.
Yeah,
to the game.
exactly.
We've spoken
like,
about that.
I've got to get. It's like, imagine you, for example, now saying, "I want to make a century break." I'm like, you got to make 50 first. Try and get that goal first. And I think if you set it too far away, you'll lose the desire because you think you're always failing because you're not meeting that goal. I'm not really one that sets goals as such, but if you were to say, what's your aim this season? It'd be to turn pro at the end of the season. And if I wasn't, then it'd be next season.
So, but if you didn't turn, would you be disappointed, or would you just see that as like a slight stumbling block?
I think anybody who's losing and isn't disappointed is either not being honest or they're not into it enough. So yeah, I'd be disappointed. But that being said, it wouldn't rule the way I'm feeling. It'd be a disappointment. It'd be a hunger that I want to get better. And probably I'd say, right, what do I need to do different? Because it's not worked this time. So what can I do to be better? And I think I've learnt a lot in terms of belief. Understanding about you can beat players. In the past I've been to comps and I'm like, I've looked at the draw and I go, I can beat him, or then I'll be getting unstuck. Whereas now I'm like, anybody on my day, they're getting it if I play well. And having that belief and understanding that you can do it, it makes everything easier, But also understanding that just because you can and should or would or could, you're not going to all the time.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you actually do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been really good having Lauren, my fiance, because I'd lose and she'd be like, "Oh, we'll go again," and she's so positive. She's like, I do think I'm positive, but she's another level. She'd make the worst situation sound good. So that's been really good having her around, and she comes to comps. And the first competition she came to was a Q Tour in Belgium, and it was the furthest I've ever been in a Q Tour. I got to the semis. And she must have been thinking, we'd been together a few weeks, and it was like,
this guy's incredible.
Is this always what it's like? It's good, isn't it? You just win. But it doesn't work out like that. But she really is on board with it. She's like, she probably gets more nervous than I do playing. And we have this joke when she's playing that she shows me her hand shaking after she's played because she's that nervous. But she did it watching me, and she came off, and I think it was the quarters or the last 16. She came off and she put her hand up and it was shaking like that. And I'm like, what's up with you?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate.
Yeah,
sound me.
I was a bit, bit pumped, a bit nervy, whatever. Yeah. But she was just like,
Was it one of them moments, when it's a stereotypical thing when your girlfriend come watches you play football and all of a sudden you turn into Cristiano Ronaldo? Was it one of them moments?
I was like, I kept saying to her after I won match, I was like, it's not always like this, sometimes I do lose.
Reassuring her that it can be bad too.
Because it was in the early days of the Q Tour, and I don't even think I'd made a day two. which would be the quarterfinals at that time. And then I got to the semis and I beat some good players along the way. And I literally remember saying to her, I was like, it's not always like this. It's just a good weekend. We'll be back to normal next week.
So as we've mentioned, we have done a main video. If you guys still haven't watched it and you are this far into the podcast, well, thank you very much for watching this far so far. I hope you're enjoying it. Josh is giving away. Do you want to tell? Actually, you tell the camera exactly what you're giving away and how they've got to give it away.
Yes. So
you're making this. You're making this up.
So I'm giving away an hours coaching for free. I don't know exactly what it's going to entail.
I'll tell you what we need to do, right? So if anybody wants to enter this competition, go and watch that video to find out exactly how to enter. That's how they've got to do it.
Yeah,
if they've watched this far in the podcast, they've invested this much time, and they want an hours of your time, it's going to be here at this... Where are we at?
So we're at Patricroft Conservative Club. I should have mentioned that before.
Basically, Manchester, Salford.
Yeah, near the Trafford Centre. And on this star table as well.
And it's this star table here, which is a professional table.
Yeah, so they play on star tables on TV, and that's on all the main tour. That's the only table they play on, and it's unique. It's not like your normal club table.
The pockets are tiny.
Yeah, tiny.
You showed me this. Right? I was in disbelief when he showed me. Right, come and have a look at this table. This is the members' table here.
Yeah.
You put your fist in the pocket. Fit dead easy. Went over there, it's tiny.
Yeah.
And he was like, you sure you want to do this video on this table? I was like, yeah, it'll be all right. And then we hit them first few balls. I was like, yeah, dead easy this table. Went to the corner pocket, it's impossible. So yeah, if you guys are desperate or you guys want to learn what I have learned today, basics, if you're a good player and you want to get to that next level, please go and watch that video. The link will be in the description of this video. And I promise you, from what I've learned today in that short amount of time, it's invaluable information. Josh will literally sort your game out.
Thank you.
And if he doesn't, then don't contact me. It's not my problem. But yeah, so going into we've spoken about the sort of the tour. We've spoken about the money elements of the tour. What's it like when you're in them hotel rooms? I know we've spoken about. There's been like a few interviews over the years. And God rest his soul, he's actually died now. But Liam Payne was somebody who brought to the attention that your mental health really suffers, especially when them doors are closed. You're not seeing your family, your mum, your dad,
Yeah.
So what is that like? Is it shit?
It depends. Sometimes you can go with people. Like I'm lucky, one of my friends is coming with me to Vienna next week. It's kind of like a win-win situation. I'll spend some time with him. I don't see him often, so it'll be a nice weekend. But then if I do well at snooker, it's also good. But sometimes, like when you're going on your own, and you've nothing to do, and you can't really go out. You can't go out drinking because you need to be prepared for your match. So you're stuck watching box sets, doing whatever, and it is boring, and you miss your partner, your family, whatever. And also I've been in a scenario where I'm a bit skint and your friends are going out for a meal and I'm like, I can't really afford it. So then you're even more down in the dumps because you can't afford to go out for the meal that they're going because you've literally stretched yourself so far to get on the trip. So yeah, it can be tough. But like I say, I'm lucky. I've got a lot of, first of all, good friends and family, and secondly, good sponsors that have helped me out to make me be able to do these trips and not really worry about that side of things. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough being in a hotel. Yeah,
I can imagine. I don't think I've done it a few times where I've been away with work and stuff like that. But you're with work colleagues and you're there to do kind of I know you're there to do a job, but it's a bit different. I'll be out for the majority of the day and I'll get back and we'll be in the hotel rooms just making sure that everything's prepped and ready for the day after. Whereas suppose your job is this, and then you sit in a hotel room and you've kind of just like this, that's it.
The driving and the travelling is the bit that probably gets me more. Whether you're flying around or whether you're driving around, that
it takes you out of it. Traveling, it's horrendous,
and it tires you as well. Yeah. So then you want to go to bed, but then you can't go to bed too early because if you go to bed early, you're up early, and then you've got too long before you play a match. So then you're holding out, but you're just fighting all the time, and whether it be going up to Scotland 4 hours, whether it be going down south another 4, or like when I flew to Saudi, it was 2 7-hour flight. No, it was a 4-hour flight, then another 5, I think.
That's hanging.
And it's just like...
It's not for me, that.
It's hard, but it's also... I get to do a lot of other stuff from that, so it's not all bad, it's good as well.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just balancing that out in your own head and understanding that side of it.
I'd like to know, you listened to the podcast we did with Carl in the dart shop, and he mentioned about Phil Taylor really being meticulous about his preparation before a game. Even the day before, he sits down and he's practicing to the same tune as he might be playing somebody who throws really slow, or he might be playing somebody who's a bit quicker. Is that an element within snooker? Do you... or is it you just sitting in that chair waiting for your go? And
I think I mentioned this earlier off camera. I like to play 3 different type of practice partners. I like to practice with somebody that's better than me. I like to practice somebody similar level and somebody who's worse than me. So like it gives you the opportunity to somebody you're going to beat up, somebody that you really want to beat because you're on the same level and it's like a competition, and then somebody you're learning off, but every now and then you can push them. So I like those 3 elements throughout all my practice, and I'd say that's my way of keeping it interesting, keeping it, like, because it's very easy if you're beating somebody easily to just go off the boil and, I don't know, not try. Like I said about intensity, you're going to win, what's the point? But you've got to really want to beat them 6-0. You want to get them off the table, get it done quick, use as least energy. But I wouldn't say necessarily, playing slower players. I think I'm quite resilient and I'm quick myself. But if I play somebody slightly, it doesn't really bother me. I'm quite level.
Yeah, you're just, and again, you're kind of drawing on probably experience from when you said you was in the social clubs with your brother back in the day, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. It's mad, you say about experience, and I remember like when I was younger, people will think I'm inexperienced. And I am to some people, but to other people, I've got a lot of experience, and it's weird. Like I can talk to people now who are, you'd say, on a lower level than me, and I feel like the way people used to speak to me, but I still got those people speaking to me, if that makes sense. So yeah, experience is invaluable. You just can't do it until you've done it. So yeah.
Well, if you're ever looking for somebody better than you, I'd just give me a bell at any time. I think we've discovered today that I'm insanely good.
Just 20 quid.
No, it's all right. Money game. No, I'm gone.
Funny.
So yeah, honestly, I have thoroughly enjoyed that game today, that practice session today. Yeah. And like I said, I don't want to keep going over it, but I can already see that coming and seeing somebody like yourself has so many positive things, I would have never have picked up on. So thank you for that welcome. Today. It's been absolutely spot on. Yeah, it's incredible. This whole sort of place is incredible. Came up this morning. We're in basically Eccles in Salford. Salford, is it classed as Salford?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I turned up and I thought, it looks fairly big. And then we came up here and it's massive. Yeah. It's huge. It's a great big place. You mentioned before that the club's actually running an exhibition.
Yeah. So this weekend there's an exhibition. It was meant to be Ricky Walden, who'd been top 16 in the world, but he's had to pull out. So we've now got Stephen Maguire coming. Obviously,
not a bad replacement.
I think he's won the UK, and he's big time. He's been top 16 for many years. I think been to the one table set up at the Crucible, and they're only a tenner the tickets. I don't know whether they're sold out yet, but what a great event.
But they have plenty of these events on here.
Yeah, so they try to do 2 or 3 a year, and they try and get some decent players. So I think they had Mark Williams and Gary Wilson last year.
Yeah.
Gary Wilson made a 147, which was good to watch.
Brilliant. Well, actually in here?
Yeah.
On this table?
So it was on another table, and they put it downstairs and make a bit more of an arena spectacle.
All right, mega.
And then next year, we've actually got John Higgins coming in March. The tickets are a bit dearer, but again,
for what you get a first-time experience with one of the best in the world.
Yeah, so it's good because it's a bit more of a laugh. It's not as serious as like you'd see on TV. It's a bit more fun. So yeah, no, it should be good.
And what we'll do, I think, for the club, because they've been really good with us today. They've literally just allowed us to come in and film and do whatever out of hours as well, which is brilliant. Is we'll link the site down in the description as well, just so you guys can go and follow them. I'm assuming they've probably got Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, I think they've got a Facebook page, and then there's poster and that for the exhibition, so that would be good to share that as
So
well.
if you guys want to come and experience something, which probably a lot of people would kill to experience, I'm pretty sure I will be coming to a few of these events for sure. Then, like I said, just go down there and just go and click on it.
Yeah.
It's going to be an incredible night, I can imagine.
Yeah, it should be good fun. A few beers.
Yeah, not too many though. It's a funny story. This I actually once played snooker. We were at some of you guys might know this. It's a place called it's down in Devon. It's a golf place mainly, but they've got this massive, great big snooker hall. It'll come to me in a minute. It'll come to me in a minute.
I feel like I should know.
This is just off the cuff. This wasn't even this is why it's just taken me by surprise. And we were in there one night, and it was when Anthony Joshua was fighting Alexander Usyk, the first fight when he lost. And I don't condone drinking, by the way, guys. Just putting it out there, right? But I was intoxicated.
Yeah.
Very, very bad. And I thought it'd be a fantastic idea then to go and have a game of snooker, as you do.
Yeah. You didn't
It wasn't a good idea. It was a very expensive idea to go and play snooker because I did rip the cloth.
Oh God.
Do you know when you was getting me to screw back? It's probably where a little bit of
fear
comes from hitting the white ball because the cues weren't fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, there was hard. I don't think there was even any chalk.
Yeah.
So and I've gone underneath the ball and the cue is just buried.
Oh no.
And it was one of those where it buried and I went. Even in my drunk state, I went, "Oh dear, what have I done?" I was just like, "What have I done?" Have you ever encountered anything like that yourself? Please say yes. It made me feel better.
I've seen people like chip the ball, and make a little dent and stuff, but I've never actually seen a cloth be ripped in front of me. I've seen rips in clubs, you know, like when I've not been there and stuff, and the result. But no, you have to be.
Is that an expensive error from me? Because I mean, at the time they were just like, I paid something.
It's a few £100 to get a cloth replaced, but it's also the labour on top. So to get a fitter out. You know, for this table to recloth, it can be like between £500 and £1,000.
Yeah, I didn't pay quite that much. It wasn't.
But that's this standard, obviously.
Yeah, the tables we were playing on weren't anything like these. They were like heavily played on. I don't even think they've been brushed for probably about 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that was a bad error for me.
So
don't drink and snooker is what I want to say.
Drink a couple, but be careful.
Enjoy yourself, but don't have too many. Going back into the teaching side of things, again, for these guys who are listening sort of thing, give us an example of some drills which we can kind of get into. I know that the main video has them in.
Yeah.
You've spoken about quite intensively, but give us, the listeners, a good few things that they can do, like potting a few balls or...
Depending on your standard, depends on what you can do and what works. I showed an easy one in the video where you just put in reds after red after red and you keep staying away from the cushion. You can do the lineups, different ways of shaping the reds to clear up. It's again simple as clearing the colours. It's tough, but that's a little thing for somebody as a beginner. I also used to do this thing what I'd call the stop shots. So I'd create maybe 10 reds down the centre of the table and I'd put the white behind them and I'd try and stop the white dead. Because my theory would be if you can stop the white dead, you understand how to put it forward because it's higher than where you would stop it.
Right.
And to come back, it's lower than where you'd stop it. That's like your reference point. That's your stop shot. Going anywhere else is easier to find when you know your stop shots. So literally just putting a red straight to the middle, playing a stop shot and trying to stop the white dead. If you go through, you need to go lower or harder or whatever. And if you go backwards, it's because you're too low and you're screwing it or too hard. So it's just finding those different ways of stopping the white dead and understanding how you hit it at what distance to make the ball stop.
Yeah.
You can do like long potting exercises. You can do where you just pot the black consistently and respot it without moving the white. So you could put the white anywhere, pot the black, and then wherever your white lands, you then pot the black again. And it's trying to keep in position to try and pot as many blacks in a row without not potting it and losing position. But yeah, no, you can do any, you know, as long as you're hitting balls, trying to pot and trying to control the white, no matter what you do, you're going to be benefiting. So invent them yourselves, you know, like I randomly play some things sometimes and go, oh, that looks good, let's have a go.
Just trying to make your practice fun, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you want to challenge yourself. Like, I mean, I think, was it Stephen Andrews used to say, I used to want to do 10 lineups in a row before I left, and if I didn't, then I'd start again and do them again or whatever. yeah, challenge yourself. Obviously, that's a really high level side of it. But right, I want to clear the colours once. Do it. It is hard, but challenge yourself, and when you do it, you'll feel a sense of achievement. So yeah, just challenge yourself. Don't make it too hard, but don't make it too easy.
As we're going into the fun element here of snooker,
Yeah.
I'll give you a scenario here. Snooker's no longer a thing.
Yeah.
All the tables disappear from the face of the earth. Is there anything you would love to get into, or something? Would there be something you would be doing other than snooker?
I've always said this, and I actually had a taste of it. I would love to be a pilot, a fully trained pilot.
Wow, Jesus.
I actually did a flying lesson last year. I got it for Christmas off my partner. Just on a light aircraft, and went up for an hour. I think it was an hour I went up. Great experience, loved it. I literally, if I'm ever in a better financial position to do it because it's costly, I will learn how to fly a plane and have a license.
How was it?
It was mint. I loved it.
I would, honestly, I'm really scared of heights.
Yeah. I am, weirdly.
But you was fine.
You're in a plane, it's be all right.
Yeah, but that plane can plummet quite quickly.
I understand that. I just didn't see it the same as if I was at the top of a cliff or something.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's like when I'm flying in like an aircraft or whatnot,
Yeah.
I'm fine. I don't get the. I'm fine because I feel like. I mean, touch wood, this doesn't happen, but there's not really any plane disasters as such.
No, they don't really.
Realistically, not like a car crash. There's car crashes all around the world, but planes are generally all right, aren't they? So I'm kind of fine, but I don't think I'd trust myself to be a pilot.
So obviously I had somebody with me, and we flew out, and he just said, right, I want you to turn 90 degrees east. I did
and
that.
you actually had...
Yeah, I had full control.
Did he have...
He had the ability
dual
to,
controls?
But he said, you go now. And, obviously if it goes wrong, you've got time to stop. But he just like, this is how you do it. Look over your shoulder, see this. And because it's in a light aircraft, it's not like the big ones. Everything's in your hand, and turn it around. And he's like, right, now I want... So I was doing it over Blackpool. And he said, right, now I want you to aim for the tower.
Right.
Just keeping your altitude, I think it was at 5,000 feet or 10,000 feet at the time, keeping your airspeed at the same speed and keeping level with your wings. You've seen the blue and the brown where it's level, and you've got on flight simulators.
I've never been on flight simulators, no.
Well, it's just like keeping the aircraft level.
Right,
But it was really good. And so he got me to do the landing a little bit, like I was involved in getting it down and the way you aim the lights, and it was honestly unreal experience. I'd recommend it to anyone.
Yeah. It sounds insane.
But it's something I've always wanted to do, and even now after experiencing that, I want to actually get a license. I'd love to be able to say, I'm just going to the pub, I'm just going for a fly. It'd be really cool. So yeah, one day it'll happen. So
you literally took off, you had all control of it, or did he get you up in the air?
I think he got me up in the air.
Yeah.
He explained everything that he was doing, and he got us up. And then he said, so I think at the point was at maybe 2,000-3,000 feet. And he was like, right, I want you to get us up to 6,000, for example.
Yeah.
So he tell me how to do it. Don't go too far because you'll lose your velocity.
Right.
He said, so you got to do it gradually, because if you go too far up, then you'll just fall. You won't, obviously, but he was explaining how you have to do it at a certain angle and stuff.
It's knocking me sick
already. It probably would knock you a little bit sick if you didn't like flying, because you're in this small thing. It was so cramped.
Yeah.
And
I've seen them when them little small planes. Like tin cans, aren't they?
They're literally shaking as well. But I loved it. I would do it again.
It sounds incredible. Was it difficult to do?
No, not really.
No.
I think the impressive bit was, the way he's talking to the tower and stuff to land, and he's using the phonetic alphabet and just the natural whiskey tango. I was well impressed with that side of it more than the actual flying of the plane. Just his knowledge to say, I'm coming in from the east and I'm going to come in at this airspeed, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, wow, that was cool. And then him going, let's turn, let's do this, let's land.
Did you land the plane?
I think I got it down to about 1,000 feet, and he did the last bit.
Right.
Or something. I can't remember. It's bad, that, isn't it? It was only last year.
Well, no, because it was probably all a blur. That's the problem with doing stuff like this. When you go and do mad things like that, I almost feel like it needs to be filmed, just so you can watch it back and go, I remember that. Because you were probably just doing it at the time, just trying to not crash.
Yeah, I was in he gave me, it must have been about 25 minutes straight, full control. He didn't touch it, he didn't change anything, he didn't just let you just fly. And he'd tell me what to do. He'd say, so first of all, he did the example to show me, and then after that, he just let me fly it. Obviously, I think I did well because he didn't ever have to cut in or anything.
I mean, you're still here today.
Yeah, exactly.
You must. I'm going off of that realistically. You're still here. You're not dead.
But I think I did it through the Virgin Days thing, something like the red letter days or whatever.
I'm going to have a go at this
but
now.
It was brilliant. And I don't think it's not cheap, but it's not like unfeasible either. I think it was a couple of £100.
Right.
So yeah, and actually one of our friends bought it for a dad, and he loved it as well. He's always wanted to do it, and he enjoyed it. So yeah, I would recommend it. Really
it's like, again, the whole premise of the channel is trying to, because like you obviously mastering snooker, that's what you're insanely good at.
Yeah.
But then like, let's say you'd watch my darts podcast, and you were like, and you've obviously gotten into darts as well, sort of thing. Obviously, I'm not trying to claim that you got off to through darts off the back of my videos, but that's what it's there to do. And it made me smile when you was like, I've actually watched I watched your podcast with Carl in the shop, and I was like, that is what I want.
I
would love for people from different sort of places and different.
No, I enjoyed it as well. I found it interesting. Like you said, it was reasonably long, and I watched it from start to finish, and really enjoyed it. It was good. So
what's your darts game like?
Oh, not very good. I'm loving it, and like I played the first match the other week in round the board, and I played miles better than I ever expected. It was quite cool. I won.
What was in like 1 to 20?
Yeah,
and
1
then
to 20,
25
double and bull.
Yeah.
And yeah, I actually played really well, which I was very shocked at. And they were all like, "Are you coming next week?" And I'm like, "I'm rubbish." Like, genuinely, this was a bit lucky. But no, I am enjoying just chucking them. I think similar to like what I said with my snooker. You know, like I practice to kind of get away from the outer world. I do whatever, and it's like a bit of therapy. Same with darts. You know, like you can just go chuck a darts for half an hour. You don't really need anyone there. You can just chuck them and chill out.
Yeah.
And I want to get better. Like I was thinking then, I've always had like different fads, I'll call them. I tried juggling when I was younger in the summer, and then did Rubik's Cube, darts now, snooker, a long-term fad. But I've always like got these little things that, you know, the entertainment, I want to complete them, I want to do it, and you know, inquisitive in the way that I do it. So
you are literally just the same person as me, but just slightly better at snooker. I'm just going to put it out there.
I had the phase with golf as well. Like I've still never played on a hold course. I've only been to the driving range, but I must have went to the driving range in the space of 2 months 20 times, and I was just like, I just want to hit it really good, and I want to hit it sweet. I know it's not about, it is about distance, but it's not. It's feeling it where you're hitting it where you're aiming, and it goes up and comes back down, and it's like, I didn't nearly break my shoulder because I hit the floor. Yeah. And I didn't miss the ball over the top. Do you know, like?
Well, it's interesting because I think every single sport has the same characteristics. And the thing I say, you taught me today is that for the screw back shot, you don't need to hit it hard.
Yeah.
It's just about hitting it correctly.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the same with, you can liken that to so many different sports. Golf, you've just used that as an example.
Yeah.
Golf is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to hit it's not about, like, don't get me wrong, like Bryson DeChambeau hits the ball an absolute mile. Yeah. Yes, he's got a really good swing speed, but it's not just about swinging as hard as he can. There is an element as well as that you need to catch the ball in the middle of the club face because that's where the sweet spot is. Yeah. And if you do so, like if you don't hit the sweet spot,
it's going anywhere.
It's going well. Yeah, you could get draws, hooks, slices, you name it. And if your club face is slightly open, then it pushes it off to the right, maybe a slice, or if it's closed, if you're a right-hander, then you get them hooks and stuff like that. So you need to have the perfect shot. And it's exactly the same as what we've learned here today. You know, like you basically said to me, it's like, you don't need to smash the hell out of it. Yeah. You just need to hit it right. You need to hit the ball in the right position. Yeah. And it's exactly the same. Like, it's like, so that's what I'm saying, is like, you can liken loads of different sports, you know, just get the correct technique down, and then you're kind of a little bit on your way really to being half decent.
No, you're not wrong.
And then you was talking about sort of darts and stuff like that. Like this year, obviously, as you've seen on the channel, I played darts for the first time and love it, by the way, still playing. There will be another video on the way soon where I go and play in an actual tournament. I'm scared for that one, to be honest with you. I'm really nervous, so I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a second. But I really do like getting into the nitty gritty, you know, of like, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to, you've taught me the technique or something today, and I would be one of them people who just goes away and hits 200 million balls into the same pocket over and over again, knowing that when I get to that position on an actual game,
able to do it.
I could do it dead easy. And that's what I'm like. I'm like it with darts. I'll just stand there in the kitchen throwing darts, and eventually you get the 180s. You go, yeah, brilliant. And then you win a game, and you go, oh, insane. And then your average starts going up, and then you're driving to get better and better and better. Yeah. Like I've just said there, I am really terrible with nerves. You've seen the Academy video. Now, what you can't see in the Academy video when I'm playing both Matty and Morgan, again, if you guys haven't watched that video, please go and watch it. It's where I go to St. Helens Darts Academy and I play two of the best, like 13 and 14-year-old lads, and they're insane, like really good. Like they didn't average very well in them games, like their own admission.
Yeah.
They average on a regular basis. I went watching Matty in a tournament in Wigan last Friday, which will be in a few weeks from, and he averaged in those games in the mid-70s and still didn't play very well.
Yeah.
That's scary. There's levels. But one thing you can't see from that Academy video is that I really have always struggled in anything I do when I get to a level with nerves. How do I stop that?
Yeah.
Please help me.
I mean, I'm not the guru with it. I think, I don't know.
Is it by putting yourself? Because one thing I'm kind of getting used to now is talking to people. Again, we spoke about this before.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at podcasts. I'm trying to get better for you guys, and to try and tell stories. And for holding a conversation with somebody, it takes it's a skill.
It's a skill, yeah,
It's a skill.
for sure.
But I am starting to get better at it in terms of holding a conversation, being able to prompt people with questions. Is it just a case of, to get rid of nerves, is to put yourself in an uncomfortable position, keep doing that, and eventually that will become the norm?
I think so, yeah. I think if you keep doing something that you struggle with and you get nervous with, you are going to gradually get better. You know, I'm having it with my missus at the minute with Pearl. She's so nervous. Like, she's quite a confident person, but she doesn't show how nervous she is sometimes. And like, she's playing in a county or whatever, and she'll come off and she's shaking like mad. But she's gradually, over the last couple of years, and from where she was to where she is in terms of nerves, forget the Pearl and the standard, it's so much better. Like, she can come off now and go, I felt comfortable there, I felt all right. And I think you just got to keep getting in that situation. From a personal point of view with nerves, I definitely feel them. Anybody who says they don't feel nervous is lying. But I think I've always felt nerves and pressure are a bit different, but also similar. I think I've never felt it as much as some people. Like, there's a lot of people at my level who are full-time snooker players trying to make it full-time, not working. I've always had a job, I've always had an income. It's never been like a need to happen or else we're going to have to stop. So when I'm playing, people are thinking, oh, this is like my chance, this is what I need to do. Whereas I'm thinking, I've got work on Monday.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, it's not the be-all and end-all. Yeah. I think it sounds, for me, that can sometimes be a positive in the way that it chills me out. It probably isn't as much meaning to them as it is for me. However, sometimes I could probably do with a kick up the arse to, you know, be a bit more under pressure. Yeah, this needs to happen. You can't just keep coasting, you know. Can
you put that into your practice sessions? Or is it you just have to put yourself in like a tournament?
I think realistically you have to be in a tournament to deal with it. But I hate losing. So if I'm playing somebody in practice, I want to beat them. You know, I regularly tell people prior to going that I'm playing them, so they ask me later, how did you get on?
Yeah.
And then there's nothing worse than saying, got beat.
Didn't play too well. Yeah.
He riles me up. So I want to win, but you still can't replicate that match scenario, whether there's a crowd or not, or whether there's people watching, or the importance of that match. You can't replicate that without actually doing it, I don't think.
Yeah, well, there's one. I read a book, believe it or not. I know. You look at me, you think there's no way in hell that this guy's read a book. I did once. It was actually Ant Middleton. It was called The Fear Bubble.
Yeah.
And what it was is because I am so bad at it. So I got to, I'd say, a good level at golf. My handicap, I was down to a roundabout scratch a few years ago now. I've not played golf much recently. So I got to a decent level. But I was only playing in Saturday Opens at my local golf course. But it got, because I was putting so much pressure on myself to perform every time I went out, I started getting nervous over 3-foot putts, which you would never, if it was going out for a friendly knock with your mates, I would never have missed that putt. Yeah. Straight putt, bang, straight in the middle. And it just, for whatever reason, whenever it meant anything, club championships, for example, because I was so desperate to do well in it, like I would hit mid-70s, and that would be usually a bad round for me. That would be a really poor round, in fact. I'd get to club champs and crumble, be like low 80s.
Oh.
And it's terrible. And it's like, it's something. So I read this book, and to some extent, it did help. You know, he explains about you're in your own bubble. And the way I likened it to golf at the time was the pre-shot routine. Again, we spoke about it in the main video before. And you spoke about before you get down, you hit your shot, you're thinking about what you're trying to achieve with that shot. And it's quite right, and it's bang on. And so before you even get down on your shot, you're thinking about, right, okay, is that on line? Put my right foot there. And it's a process every single time you're doing it, isn't it? And I suppose, does that, to some extent, when you're in these high-pressure situations where it really does mean something, is that all you're thinking about? You're literally thinking, left foot, right foot, because you're left-handed, cack-handed. And you get down your shot, and then that's all that you're thinking about. Is that?
So, one of my friends, he used to teach me, do all your thinking stood up. So when you're down on your shot, you don't do anything, and it's all just part of the process. Second nature is what you know. And that's how it should be. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily happen like that. I think you've got to train yourself. I think you've got to learn how to... You've got to understand your own brain. You've got to understand what makes you think like this. And I've done it where I've worked on my own mental side of things and tried, setting up different triggers, setting up different ways of thinking. I change where I look at the point of striking the ball and, just kind of wander your mind in a different direction than that. I need to pot this. Is that right? Get away from that and work a different way of using your brain. Do all your thoughts stood up before you get down, and then, you're alleviating the possibility of going, this is a massive part, it's so important, it really needs to go in. You need to train yourself to not do that. And it's hard, easier said than done, but you still got to do it. You've got to learn. You've got to find ways of making this happen. So I had a way that I mentioned before that I don't really breathe on my shot. And there were some times where, because it was a bigger shot, I might take subconsciously a bit longer on the shot, and I'd be nearly passing out because I'm holding my breath. So I have to kind of make a bigger breath, and I'd understand that, I need to knuckle in this shot. I need to be ready. Yeah. Another scenario where I think you need to train your brain. So say if I said to you, play that red as thin as possible, and it was an open red and you can play it. People would be like, hitting it thick or missing it. If I put a pink in front of the red and left only the thin edge visible, it's an exercise that snooker players have done. You will hit that thin edge very easily. Yeah. And it's because you've got essentially a guide or another thing. So if you can hit that every single time, more or less, but then when you've got it as a naked red on its own, it's a bit of a struggle. That tells me it's mental. Because
you can do it.
You can do it, and you can do it consistently. So it's hard to visualise like that, but the way it'll be, you can only see that point, and it's such a fine edge, but you'll get it, and it's easier to do because you've got a guide and got a pressure. I can't hit the pink, and I can't miss it. And you find it's bizarre. I had it shown to me, and it was like, the only reason that's hard when it's not there, the other ball, is because your head. It's not your skill. It's your mental. And that's half of this game. Like I said, my consistency could be down to my mental side of things. Not being as good as other players, and that's what you've got to. You're always striving to find. I can't remember. Is it the 1% you always want? You always want to.
Yeah, just improve by 1%. Yeah.
And if you can keep doing that and doing that and doing that, you're going to get better and better and better.
Of course.
So yeah, I think mentally I've become stronger as well. So last year my friend Dan Wells, he came off tour a few years ago. He had a nightmare season. He started playing on the amateurs. Anyway, I started getting on with him, and we'd go to comps and we'd be with each other, whatever. Anyway, I think it was at the World Amateurs. I stayed around and just kind of got talking to him, and I was like not supporting him as such, but like, come on, mate, you can win this. It's well within your grasp. And then he asked me to go to one of his comps with him, just as like not a caddy, but like a wingman, just somebody to keep him concentrating, be his friend. And we ended up doing it for like a season where I went to all his comps, I'd be with him. I'd like, right, we're going practice. I'd get his balls, and then we'd eat food together. We'd stay away from other people, and we'd try and like, create an environment to perform better in. And obviously that benefited him having me around because it was like a friend, and it wasn't socialising with other players, not getting bored in the hotel, being mind-numbingly bored and getting stressed. And it also helped me a lot because I saw what I needed to do, because I would say I was much more of a to turn up, see what happens, go bed late the night before. Oh, I should have stayed over really, but I want to go and see my mates on that Friday. And I'd be very unprofessional in the way I'd deal with things. And seeing the tour and like the way other players acted and the way that, no matter how big or small the comp was, these are professionals, and you could see the way they was being professional. Yeah. So for this season, I sat there and I just kind of absorbed it all without really playing a shot. And I learned so much, and it's no surprise to me that I've got a better mentality and structure in my own game from spending that time with him. I'm too busy now, I can't go with him, which is frustrating for him, I think.
You're doing your own thing, you're trying to make it yourself.
He's like, well done, but now that means you can't come with me. Never paid me. I enjoyed it. I'd really enjoyed being with my mate. We'd have a right good laugh. But it wouldn't be like a go out, get drunk laugh. It'd be, we're at work, we're doing a job, and I'd get satisfaction out of him winning. Not that I did any of it. I don't take any credit. But I enjoyed seeing him do well. And me being a bit of like, there'd be times, oh, should I practice? I'm like, we're going practice. We're doing this, we're doing that. And funny actually, he discovered that I'm all right at cooking, and he was like, can you like, if I get an apartment, can you cook? And I was like, yeah, if you want. So then I started like making meals and stuff. So I think he's missing me now. He's back to Wagamama's and Nando's.
Not a bad substitution though.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk snooker cues.
Snooker cues.
The old ones.
Yeah.
How important is it to... I have no idea. I usually come into a place like this, find one that's been on the floor for about 10 years, grotty, horrible, sticks to your fingers and stuff like that. How important is it, if you want to get to that sort of like next level, to get fitted for a cue? Is that a thing? I don't know.
Honestly, there are some nice cues out there, and like you can... I guess it's like cars, they look nice, but they all get you from A to B. Similar with snooker cues, they all work if you want. Within reason, if you get the really bad ones, they can be a hindrance in them not being straight or them having like a finish that makes it sticky and not smooth. But you don't need to spend loads. You can get quite a simple cue. I prefer the one piece just because you don't have a joint, you don't have that possibility of anything going wrong with a joint. Funny actually, I went to Green Bay's, I can't remember where it is, somewhere in the east of England anyway, towards Middlesbrough. And I said, I'm not looking at prices. I'm literally just going to pick the best cue. So they've got a table, you can have a few shots. And narrowed, they've probably got, I'm guessing, a few hundred cues in there, maybe 500 cues, I'd say.
Yeah.
And I went round and I picked out the ones that would fit my kind of detail, tried them all, narrowed them down to 20, narrowed them down to 10, never looked at prices, and I narrowed them down to 3. And I said, right, I'm going to pick one, and I'm going to look at the prices. Picked one, and it was, I think, the third dearest in the shop. And I was like, not that means that that's the reason, it just happened to suit me.
Yeah.
And I was like, why does it have to be that? Like, could be one of the cheap ones. But I love my cue, and it is what it is. But you do not need to spend that. Like, before that, my great-grandma died. She was I think she was 90 when she died. And she left me 500 quid in a will. So I bought a cue with that, and that was like my cue for 6-7 years. And anyway, I was playing in a match in South Wales, and I played a shot, and my tip came off, but it brought some of the wood off, so it damaged my cue. I ended up getting it fixed, but I lost confidence with it. So I changed it and got this one at that point. And you don't need, that old cue, it was a unknown cue maker, really good cue maker, but unknown, didn't really make a hell of a difference. You can play with anything if you get used to it. I think you need maybe the principles of your size of your tip, a good weight distribution, good length for the right size person you are. But after that, does it really matter? I'm not convinced.
So again, kind of the level I'm at, I spoke to you on the phone.
Yeah.
I don't have a cue. So the cue I was using in the video was actually
one of my
your
friends'
mates' cues. Don't mention names.
You'll tell me
If
off.
I've ruined it, yeah, tell you off.
Tony.
Yeah. Cheers, pal. It was really good. But I said to you, one of the things, again, liking it to other sports, is like in golf, for example, like I don't know what level I'm at. So I feel like if I was to go and spend 200-300 quid on a cue now, it might be good for the short term, but whilst I'm getting a bit of coaching from yourself, I might grow old. It might grow old very, very quickly.
You find that I find anyway, people love cues. Like they like, oh, look at this, it's a nice wood, the grain's lovely, and like the balance. Oh, look at that, we've got rosewood going into ebony, into ash. Like, I don't particularly care. I don't care what my cue looks like as long as it feels good in my hand. But people do grow like that, and they're like, do you know what you'd say? Oh, it's a hatchback. Oh, it's got a spoiler. It's got a big exhaust.
Yeah.
Whatever those things. People do that with snooker cues. I don't necessarily think you need it, especially definitely at a reasonable level. You don't need it. It doesn't make. That's not why you're not playing well. That's the truth.
Get the fundamentals
I'm pretty
right
sure
first.
Stephen Hendry won his world titles with a £4 rack cue. So put that into context.
But there are people out there, like there's a guy on tour in golf called Joel Darman, I think his name is. Sorry if I've pronounced his name wrong, don't pull me up on it. And one of his clubs was a £50 hybrid, which he bought off eBay, second hand.
Yeah.
And like he's got the ability to just go to a club manufacturer probably and just say, I'll have that. And he didn't. He was like, no, it fit. I tried it once, I liked it, and it's still in the bag now. I
think that's it, really. Like, and with the Hendry example, he weren't struggling because he didn't have a handmade one piece, this, that. I don't really think it matters. I like a nice cue. I'm not as obsessed as some people are.
Yeah.
And I'm not, people buy into the tips and stuff like that. I've found a nice tip that I like and it doesn't, so like sometimes with a tip it can overhang and you need to cut it down. This is brilliant. So I'm using an AP Exotic tip at the moment and I do really like it. So thanks to him. But I'm not one that gets massively bogged down with all that.
No, you just want to focus on what's going on.
You can control, really. Like,
I
think people overthink it, especially tips and chalk and this.
So what would be your best advice for myself going in a few weeks' time, potentially going buying a cue?
Don't waste your money on something too expensive unnecessarily. But try something that feels comfortable in your hand, that you have different diameters that you bought, what feels right in your hand. Not too heavy, not too light. Just, I think figuring out what feels good for you. Like I'd be testing them and just having a couple of shots to, and hopefully I think you would say, oh, that one's nice, and get that one. Don't really think about the cost of, oh, that one's dearer, that'll be better. It doesn't work like that. So yeah, do that.
Josh, let's wrap this up, mate, because it's been unbelievable. Been another bloody long podcast. You guys have heard my Wigan droning accent for another 2 hours almost. I've really appreciated it. Like I said, I would love to do like a series where we do like intense coaching for 30 days or something like that, or 60 days. We see where we can take it, because currently, you guys, if you've watched the first video, will have seen that it's currently not very good. It's good in areas if the balls are straight and
you just need to just do the start.
Yeah. Just it's a 2-minute video that
it's done. He's really good.
But honestly, mate, it's been an eye-opener for me to see that, in actual fact, snooker coaching can bring you on leaps and bounds. We have also set that competition, so if you're interested in getting a lesson from Josh himself, then please go and head over to that main video to discover what you've got to do. You've got to watch it, first and foremost. If you've got to this point in this podcast, thank you very much. This is the first podcast we've done with the name of the Challenge Accepted. The reason why I did that, the Challenge Accepted podcast, because, as I say, it's called How Hard. Yeah. So it's discovering how difficult things are. And this is essentially, the challenge has been accepted by myself on many, many, many things to come and see how difficult things are to do. And I think we've had a good day today. Yeah.
I've got one more question.
Go on.
So, from your point of view, now learning these, and you've played all these sports, what's the hardest one? 9 data, 147, or a hole-in-one?
Well, I've only had one of them free.
Hole-in-one.
Hole-in-one. I had that when I was This is a true story. Before we finish, actually, what a great question. That's the best question I think I've ever asked. So I was.
It's going round at the minute. Everybody's talking about it.
I was 14 at the time, and this is why I'm ruling out a hole-in-one straight away.
Yeah.
So I was 14 at the time, and it was at a golf course close to me called Standish. It's no longer there. It's not there anymore.
Yeah.
And I had played 5 rounds of golf at this point in my whole entire life. It was the second hole. The first hole was a par 5, and I shot an 8 on that, so it was a triple bogey. I was completely useless at golf.
Yeah.
The second hole was an uphill par 3. It was about 170 yards. At the time, I hit a 4-iron. I bladed the 4-iron, so it went low like that. Yeah. And it's hit the front of the green, and you couldn't see where the green was. So I've got up to the green, and I gone to the back of the green. I'm looking in the rough. One of the lads who I was playing with, Johnny, he's gone to the hole. He said, "What are you playing with?" I told him what ball I was playing with. It's in the hole. I was like, no way. So I completely like scuffed a shot, got a hole in one.
Yeah.
My granddad's been playing for 50 years, 60 years, probably 70 now.
Yeah.
Years, he's getting on. And I rang him up. I said, "Hi, Grandad, you all right?" He said, "Yeah, I was playing golf today." "All right, any good?" I got a hole in one. He put the phone down on me.
Brilliant.
He's never had one. And then about 10 minutes later, he's obviously fuming at the pitch. He's happy but fuming because obviously, and he's rung me back and I've explained what happens. Annoyed him again. Scuffed this shot, Grandad. Bladed it into the pin, dropped down. It's probably just gone in. No idea. Didn't see it. So he was annoyed. So I'll rule out getting a hole in one because I think I've been close a number of times to getting one. And you see that on a regular basis in like the club I was part of. Every week there'd be like, I'm not saying every week, but every other week there'd be like a bottle of whiskey on because it's a thing what you do where you put a bottle of whiskey aside or a few drinks behind the bar for everybody who comes in after it. I don't know why we have to pay. We've just got all in one, but you do anyway. So let's rule that out. Then it's between getting a 147 and a 9-darter. It's tough. This one's really tough because obviously I have only just started realistically learning about snooker. So I can't say from a snooker point of view, but what I could say for a darts point of view is that already in, I'd say, 5 months of me playing darts is I've had a good number of 180s. I think I saw you
37 or
37,
27
yeah. 180s. And I've been really close before. I've had one 180 and then I had I think a 140 straight after. Yeah. So it's tough for me to say, right? And this will be controversial in the comments. I think snooker's probably going to be the hardest thing to get for many reasons, right? Because again, golf, I scuffed one, got a hole in one, right? Darts, I've been playing 5 months, and realistically, I'm doing this. Yeah. And as long as I release the dart in the same position every single time and there's no wind, it should go in the same position, right? Yeah. The thing I'm seeing with snooker is that you have to be in ultimate control with that cue ball every single shot, don't you? Yeah. So, like, you obviously break off, and not only that, the balls have to be in the right position to be able to get that. Yeah. So I'm saying that. I'm putting the money on the line, not just because I'm in front of you.
I think the most people do say this. I don't think anybody ever says hole in one. I think that's just like written off straight away.
I'll tell you what would be a better question. Yeah. If you ask that question again, is an albatross in golf. Yeah. Because that is tough to get. Like, I don't know what it is in terms of like a percentage-wise sort of thing, or I'm sure it's like 3,000 to 1 for a hole in one. I don't know what it'd be for snooker, but I can guarantee put it this way, I don't think I would ever get one. But I reckon that I've got a good opportunity of potentially getting a 9-darter. Yeah.
Keep going, keep practicing.
But it is practice essentially. Like at the end of the day, in a few months' time, I might come to you and go, "I've just had my first century break," and then I'm not being funny, but you might agree with this. But I feel like if you know the principles of potting a ball, what's stopping you from getting?
No, I think that's the same with the darts, though, isn't it? If you can hit the treble 20 once, you can hit it 7 times and get a 19 in a double 12.
Would you agree? Would you?
I've only obviously done one.
But you've just started playing darts, so you might have a different perspective from me.
I think I could get to a level at darts with just practicing and keep going and going and going. I'm not saying I'd get a 9 darter as such, but I reckon I could get there. If I put, I'll word it another way. If I put the same amount of time as snooker as I did in darts, I think I'd have had a 9 darter.
It's fair. Yeah, so, I completely agree. What a way to finish that is, by the way. Thank you for asking that question.
It's a question that's going around at the moment.
Have you got any more questions? I quite like that. Interview me.
Yeah, let's go the other way. No, I don't know.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
Josh, you've been unbelievable today. Really have. And like I've said, go and watch that main video. Thank you very much for watching this podcast, the Challenge Accepted podcast. You're the first person under that bracket, by the way. So, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be seeing you in the winner's circle soon. Yeah, and then this podcast blows up. I blow up. We do this full time. Yeah. Everyone's happy. So thank you very much. If you guys are enjoying these podcasts so far, we're now available on Spotify.
Oh, nice.
So the first 2 episodes are also available on Spotify. So if you are driving around the place, you don't have to watch it on YouTube anymore. You do have the ability to watch it on Spotify. It's only available there at this present moment in time because I have premium Spotify. So it made sense. So please go and have a listen to on there. That'll help the rankings. If you want to like it, please like it. I'm not insisting you do that, but please do. Yeah. It really does help. But until next time, thank you very much.